Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yes, right until the DVA, the cycle ends.
Yes, yes. And Miss Karen, you were just sharing with us the mindset of, what happens when you're in the midst of a domestic violence relationship. Share that with us again real quick.
When you're in the midst of a domestic violence relationship, it's almost like a drug. Like I said before when we was off, you get to that abusive stage, but it gets to a point where you're yearning for that aftermath. You're yearning for that soothing. You're yearning for that comfort, because you know that abuse is going to start, but it's eventually end. And then the aftermath, that soothing is going to come in. So it's almost like a drug where you yearn for that. And it's it's very, very hard to get over. And then you find yourself wanting that more and more. So it's just something that you have to kind of break yourself away from. Just like I say, it's psychological, it's mental. When a person get in your head,
and I like the fact that you said it's like a drug, because if we think about it in human nature, with a drug, you got to go to rehab. You got to go. You really go through withdrawal. You go through withdrawal to get off of the drug. You know what I'm saying? So you go through this part where your body is doing all of these type of reactions and response. So in a domestic violence relationship, to be able to come out of it, I don't want to say get out of it, to come out of it, and to have the strength to do that, you fighting just like a person that's fighting to get off drugs. And we know that a lot of times when someone is fighting to get off drugs, some people have to go to rehab multiple times,
Yes.
And I was talking when we were talking, I was saying that for those of us that don't understand it, we live in la la land to the point where we don't understand that by the time someone is physically abusing you, you said this, Miss Karen, you said that it's started off with, a push. It started off with this, it started off with that. And then it just escalated. You know what I'm saying? It escalated. It wasn't like everything just wham, bam. It might have seemed like, okay, this was a one-time thing. You was just upset. But it started off little and it increases. And you keep telling yourself that, it was after a while, because the manipulation that happens with the situation, the manipulation. And this is what every year at the DVA event, every time someone comes and tells their story, this is what I've gathered. It's a tactic. You know what I'm saying? The person gets in your head, and that once they get in your head, it's the tactic that they use to manipulate. And then after a while, it becomes just like you said, it's a drug, because, okay, you're going to abuse me, but something good is coming after it. We're going to make up. We're going to have a good time afterwards. And, this is just who you are. You didn't mean it. I love you. I just made a mistake. It was because I had a hard day at work. It was this, it was that. I even remember her asking us in last year's event and the year before, does alcohol make a person act a certain way? And it's like, no, a person is who they are. But then when they get certain things in them, it pulls out something that you never thought you would see. And sometimes that's how it is in a relationship. And that's why, we want to teach about healthy relationships, because sometimes in the midst of a dating relationship, the signs are there.
Yes.
The signs are there, but we don't pay attention. Or we say, oh, I just caught him on a bad day. Or they really didn't mean that. Or we brush it off, like it wasn't that bad. But the signs are sometimes there that we can see clearly that this person is somewhat disrespecting us in a certain type of way, or this person is aggressive. And sometimes those signs are things that we think, Dee, you talked about this, is things that we think is cute. It's things that, oh, he cares about me. He want to know, how long it takes me to get home. Oh, he's concerned about how I look. He want to tell me where my hair, like he cares. And there's nothing wrong with your spouse suggest, oh, babe, your hair looks good when you wear it like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But saying, I don't want you to do this. I want your hair, and it's more to it than just the words. You see what I'm saying? Because I could express to my husband that, oh, I don't like this on you. I like that on you better, because that's attractive to me on him or whatever. And that's one thing, but it's the control mechanism that's added to it that makes it something completely different, because then it's like, don't wear this, wear that. That's a difference in saying, I like this this looks good on you, and saying, don't wear this, you need to wear that. It's a different thing. And I think it's the biggest part that we miss is that it's way more to it than just the physical stuff.
It is.
Because now the physical is a great part, because nobody should be touching you physically. Nobody should be putting their hands on you. You're an adult, they're an adult. If we have a conflict and we can't settle this conflict as adults, then we need to separate for a period of time, maybe in separate rooms or whatever, until we can come back. But when it starts to get physical, now we're talking about a whole nother situation. So it's not that the physical should be ignored, but the physical starts long before the physical starts.
Exactly.
Because it starts with little bitty things with the mind. And you said something, Miss Karen, and when you were talking, I was just sitting here and I knew my mic was on, so I was trying not to say wow. Because I'm like, you never think about when we care about somebody, what they can do to our psyche.
Yes.
When we don't have, and this is what we focus on and talk about on the Marriage Coach podcast, when we don't have the right tools to recognize, okay, that's a yellow flag, I need to pay attention to that. While we dating, right? That's a yellow flag.
Yes.
I need to pay attention. It don't mean I'm saying you're a horrible person. It just means it's a yellow flag. Because the truth of the matter, in a relationship, both people come in with baggage, right?
Mm-hmm.
The difference is you have some people that have done the work and they know how to deal with their baggage.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Versus the person who has not acknowledged that they have baggage, and now they bring their baggage to you. Because oftentimes, if you look at those that have abuse, and there are people, there are anomalies is what they call them, when somebody, just out the blue, they don't have a history of it, they just all of a sudden did this. But most of the time, you have someone that has grown up in a violent situation. That's why they become violent. Or there was violence in other relationships, and then you have this where it escalates because that person got away from them or whatever. So it starts before the violence actually starts. There's little bitty things. Even when it comes so far as someone, actually taking someone's life, there was signs that person was capable of doing that. And so we have to have the right tools to be able to recognize those signs, but we have to understand that it's going to start long before the physical actually starts. And I was blown away by your story, and I think that is an awesome thing what you're doing for women. Because here's the thing, and this is something that we always talk about. My husband is a pastor, and we have a podcast, and what we always want to do at the church and on the podcast, we want to be transparent and we want to promote realness. Because Miss Karen, what you're doing, what you're doing is what frees people. What frees people to tell the truth. And then there's some young woman, some young man that will say, I'm not alone. Yes, I did stay longer than I should have, but there's still hope for me to come out. Yes, I did go back, but I'm deciding today that this is not what I want. And here's the thing, community. We have to have the support from our squad, our community. We have to have the support. So I want to say this to those that may be listening. If you have a family member that has experienced domestic violence, when they need your help, they don't need a I told you so. They don't need a you should have listened to me. They don't need it. All they need is your support. Give them the support that you can give them so that they can know that you are there for them and they're not alone. There are some times when domestic violence and the situation can be so deep that the person actually feels like there's no way out. They stay because there's no way out. It's like, I remember one of the ladies shared a story with us a couple of years ago. You have 3 or 4 kids and none of your family members can take you and your kids in. So what you do, you stay. Some people think, I don't want to go to a shelter. I don't want to live in this place with a whole bunch of, because the ideas that we have about shelters. And truthfully, in 2020, a lot of those ideas are not true. They do have some nicer shelters, but at the same time, you may have a family member that could help you. So the community is important. And I believe that what we're doing today, what you're doing with She Ministry, what you're doing with Young Women of Favor, it is something that is important because we need to be, Cedric, my husband, always like to call it getting naked. And I always would tell him, don't say that, because you know that's me. I'm like, don't say that. But what he's saying is mentally and spiritually, taking off the things that we use to hide what is really going on with us, taking off the thing. This is why our children find themselves in domestic violence relationship, because mom is not honest about it.
Yes.
Mom is not saying, baby, I made a choice or a decision, or this, I didn't see this coming. You know, this is what happened and I didn't see it coming. So with the more we have women and men and people being honest about their baggage, their scars, their past, what has happened, but what they have overcome, then the more the next generation, the next young woman, the young woman that's listening, that says, you know, I think this is him, you know, caring about me, but you putting it on her mind now that, watch out, this may not be as sweet as you think it is. You know what I'm saying? And we're putting it on her mind. And then, Miss Karen, the thing that you're doing is showing the confidence and the tenacity can come back. You can regain who you are. You can still, what happened to you is the past. What happened to your past doesn't determine your future. You were in an abusive relationship, and you said something earlier. You're no longer a victim. You're a survivor.
Yes.
And then you're moving on to being a thriver, because now here's why you're a thriver, Miss Karen, because you going back and you snatching other sisters out.
Oh, yes.
You going back and you snatching other young ladies out. You going and you snatching other young men out. You going and saying, you don't have to stay. You don't have to endure this. Here are the signs. Here is the things that you need to pay attention to. Here's what I didn't know. Here's what I did know. And you're being honest and authentic about all of it. What you just shared when we jumped back on about how it feels, because that we're people, that's how we are. We're built. That's how we are. We're emotional creatures. It feels good, so I stay.
Yes.
And you know that there was an hour of it being horrible, but then he's going to spend the next 4 hours making it better. So, you know, that's going to hold you on to stay for the next time.
Yes. We have to break that. They break that yearning cycle. That yearning cycle. And also what it was, whoever is listening, dating or whatever, you can go into something and you see these signs, and then you go into a relationship or a situation thinking you can change that person. You cannot change a person. I tried to change a person for years. I tried to, okay, they're doing this, but yet I can change them into this. You cannot do that. What people show you, that's what it is. Accept that and move on. And you have to have strength enough to move on from that. And, you know, by me being transparent as I am, that's strength in transparency.
Yes, it is.
Because I can paint a picture and oh, I'm gonna say this, but I'm not gonna say that. That's not gonna help anybody. I have to go back into the core of it. And a lot of things I don't remember because God blocked a lot of things from me. But as I talk through these different things, I have flashes. I have different flashes come back. Even at night when I'm sleeping, I have flashes. I'm like, oh, you know, but I have to. I pray for God to strengthen me to go back to be able to help somebody, to be able to help somebody else. And I was talking about the fear. It was a lot of things that I let people know, my abuser know what I feared. And he used that over me. He used that fear to driving down the road and turn the headlights out while we driving. And he knew that was one of my fears, or try to push me out the car as we were driving. Those things, you know, are the things that that he knew about me. So be careful in letting your guard all the way down. And like you have the blind and you have it halfway open and halfway closed. You got to leave it where it's not all the way open. You got to, you know, you got to have that thing halfway open and halfway closed. You don't want to tell a person everything, all your fears, because they can use that as power over you.
Yes. Yes.
And once they have that power over you, then they slowly take your identity from you.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes that's a mistake we can make in relationship. We talk too much too soon.
Yes.
Too much too soon. Too much too soon. We ain't know nobody but 2 weeks, and we giving them all the goods in the beginning, and we telling them what John did, what Peter did, what James did, and what Ron did, and all that person, and not just the dudes, because we not male bashing, because girls, you know, women can do it too. Women could be perpetrators too. Women can be violent too. But you tell them all the things that went wrong with all these other relationships before they have even shown you that they're trustworthy to handle all that information. And now I know for these 3 months that I'm courting you, I know what not to do. And then once I suck you in, then I could be whoever I want to be after that, because now you done brought into this. So that's a good nugget right there. That's a good nugget right there. Don't talk too much too soon. That's for those that are dating. For those that are entering the dating world, you know, don't talk too much too soon. Be careful of sharing all of your fears, your anxiety, and all your past hurts and all of those things too soon with someone that has not really earned the trust for all of that information. You know, and now what I want to say on the flip side is something that we teach on the Marriage Coach podcast. You have to be careful, because we can go too far to the left, because then God brings someone that's good into your life for you, and now you're like, no, because you're gonna be just like the rest of them. So what we have to do is we have to be mindful, and we want to pray for the spirit of discernment to have balance, because once you're to the point where you're now married to this person, and you know they've done nothing wrong to you. It doesn't matter where your thoughts are taking you. If they're treating you right, they've done nothing wrong to you. Now you want to be able to share that part of your life with them, because now that's another way for them to connect with you. But what we're talking about is when you're dating somebody, before you know them, before they've earned that trust to receive that information, you don't want to give that too soon.
Yes. Backing on what you said, because you can have this and be with somebody, you don't want to push that person away, but they've done something wrong. But it does come in a time that you have to tell them, you know, don't walk up behind me, don't sneak up behind me. They don't realize that when they coming behind you to embrace you out of love and emotion and tenderness, that it's a
fear.
For you.
Yes.
So you can't. So when you go walk, they're like, whoa, what's wrong? And then you go ahead and you share your story and what happens, or don't do that, because that brings back a past. But once you tell them what, then they won't do it. They'll be subject. Okay, so I can't do that. Well, otherwise, you will run them off. Now, again, you can't tell them everything, but the thing that's going to trigger, because your trigger can cause another reflex. Another reaction. Else can happen from that. So you don't want to run people off. You don't want to scare them away. You want to be able to when the time is right, because it's a right time for everything. And you can tell that person, you know, you can't touch me like that. You know, you can't.
And that comes with prayer. That's come with a whole lot of praying. And now that God has blessed me with a wonderful marriage now and a wonderful husband now, I have to balance that thing, because now I'm open with him of the things that I went through. So now he knows different things not to do, or not, you know, don't you know, yell or get directly in my face and different things. But that takes time. That takes time for to learn each other, learn each other's setbacks or flaws or whatever. We all have them. But now we know that, and we're working towards where he knows what not to do and what to do, and I know. So that takes prayer, and the things that got me through is prayer. Even back then, I prayed. I was a praying woman. I was active in serving God. Those are the things that got me away from things, away from the abuse, away from the cycle. I always was a server in the kingdom of God. So even when I had to, you know, sometimes get beat up, to get to church, to get beat up when I got home from church. I always remained faithful to my master because I needed to get that strength from him. Right. And the strength that it took me to leave came from God. Right. Because I had 5 babies. I had 5 kids. And I left a marriage that was financially stable, that had all the wells and whistles, all these things that some people desire. But I choose not to remain in that for the house, the cars, and this. I wanted something that was wholesome. I wanted something better for my kids. I didn't want my kids to grow up and see that, especially my boys, to see that. I don't want, the generational curse had to end. And at this time now, I'm very transparent with my kids. Even though they're grown, I'm very transparent with them. I forgive your fathers. What me and your father went through has nothing to do with you, because I don't want you to feel a certain way towards your father because of what happened between us. I forgive him. I won't forget, but I forgive him. And I'll be transparent to them to let them know, my sons, don't do this to your girlfriend, to your wife, or my daughters, don't allow this to happen to you. So it's just something.
And if you are a male and you're watching this and listen to this, you don't have to call your girlfriend or your wife out of her names, out of her name. She has a name. She's not these names that you've heard in your home or heard on the streets, you hear on the songs. She's not that. You have a queen, or you should want a queen. So you treat her as a queen. You treat her with royalty. You treat her with respect. And if you do that, you will get that same respect in return. She will treat you as a king. Ladies, when you are getting out of a relationship, don't be so fast to run into another relationship. Step back, evaluate yourself, evaluate what you just came out of, evaluate what you want, learn you, understand who you are. Learn your identity, what you like to do. Some people say, I don't see how you can go to the movies by yourself. Why not? I can go to the movies by myself. I can see what I want to see. If I change my mind when I leave the house, and by the time I get to the theater and see something different, I can do that. That's my choice. I am comfortable in my skin to go eat by myself and sit down and enjoy a meal. If I say I want to eat at steak at Saltgrass or the steakhouse or whatever, and when I'm leaving and decide, you know what, now I want some seafood now, I have that. I don't have to worry about anybody, and I don't have anybody to try to talk me out of it, because I know what I want. If I decided I want to go and travel, and that's another thing, excuse me, when you are single, or when you are, don't wait on a man or a mate, a husband or a fiance or a boyfriend or whatever title you want to put on it to enjoy life. Buy your house now. Travel now. Enjoy life. Experience things that you want to experience. Know that you are somebody. You are an individual. And I'm not trying to deviate from off this topic, because the cycle is very real. But this cycle can also hem you up to where you lose your true identity. You won't even know how to go forward because you keep falling in that same trap. And we're trying to help you today to get out of that trap. And when you get out of that trap, to stay out of that trap. We're trying to show you signs and share some resources so you will know what the signs are, so you won't get into it. Because sometimes the female, can come from a healthy environment, but you meet a guy that seems to have it all together, but down the line you realize he has come from a dysfunctional family that exhibits unhealthy relationships. So now you're thinking that, oh, he didn't mean this, or this is just him, or whatever. So because you don't know, you didn't grow up in the same kind of environment or dysfunction that he has. So now you are more vulnerable because you don't know the signs. You don't recognize it. So we are here to try to help and to educate. And again, you have centers you can go to. You have counselors that you can go to, you know. And again, you know, we also want to support our families, support our friends. And like Shante said, that we don't want to belittle anybody. We don't want to put shame on them. We want them to be able to talk. We don't want to judge. And we definitely don't want to say, especially if you've never been in that situation, if I was you, girl, this is what I would do. Because the fact of the matter, you don't know what you would do until you are in it. Until you are in it.
Absolutely.
And that's with any and everything. But we were behind, we had already cut off the recording and we just started talking and getting into it, and this meat started coming out, and we was like, oh, we got to hit record again. So this is part 2, because the cycle is real, but the cycle can end.
Yes.
Okay. So I just really, really appreciate the both of you all, and just keep doing, Karen, keep doing, keep pushing, keep pushing.
Yes.
Most definitely.
You are
and
really,
I just want to say, even with being married, don't lose your identity in your marriage.
Oh yeah.
You didn't marry to complete yourself. You already a complete person.
Complete, yeah.
So don't lose your identity. Even in marriage, I still take myself, I love spending time with my husband. I love my husband, but I still need to spend time with myself. So you have to balance it, even in marriage. Don't lose your identity.
yeah.
So
Absolutely, it's important for us to know a healthy relationship is two healthy individuals, and I don't mean physically healthy. I mean mentally, emotionally healthy or healed individuals coming together for a like cause in the marriage. So, my husband and I we always explain it to people this way. My husband is the individual and I'm an individual, because the Bible says that the two shall become one. And sometimes that can be confusing for people.
Yes.
But what it means is that you're a human being, I'm a human being. We come together to equal out one unit, which is a family. That's what makes us one, because we are a family. We operate together, yet we are two individuals. I tell people all the time, my husband loves playing golf. I don't like golf. I'm not even an outside person, but that's his thing. And he can do that because that's his thing. I'm the one, I want to go shopping. Not now because of COVID, but I'm normally in the mall and doing my thing. So I do what I do. He do what he do. And then together we do what we do together, because I love spending time with my husband, being with my husband. But at the same time, you're still two individuals, because it's about, I know in order for us to have healthy relationships, we have to be self-aware of who we are. We have to know our own feelings, our own emotions, our values, what we like, what we dislike, our strengths, our weaknesses. We have to know who we are. So I know who I am and everything that I bring to the table, and Cedric knows who he is and everything he brings to the table. And then where those things are different, we mesh them together and we weave it in to make the best team, which is Team Francis. And that's a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is the best of yourself and the best of themselves being weaved together. So where he's weak, I'm stronger, and where I'm stronger, he's weak, but we compensate for each other because we're collaborating and working together. That's healthiness. It's not about everything that he wants to do, and it's definitely not about everything that I want to do, because we're a team, but we have our individual selves as well. And in no relationship should you ever be asked to lose who you are or someone else, because if you do, that's abuse. Dee, you said something in the beginning, and I remember one of the ladies presented one of the years before, but they on the screen, she put all these different forms of abuse. And see, a lot of times we think that the abuse is only the violent part. I talked about abuse starting before the physical. So you have people that have been emotionally abusing people for years. They have mentally abused people for years. They have verbally abused, and you be like, I ain't in no abusive relationship. My husband don't hit me. My wife don't hit me. No, but they verbally attack you. And when they talk, you feel this big. That's abuse.
That's abuse.
That's abuse. And I said wife because we're women talking, but we can't mesh out that there's women that do this stuff too.
Yes.
That's the truth. You have some men that are suffering abuse and they're not gonna say anything because that's a ooh in society. What you mean she abusing you? But it's true because they've been taught don't put your hand on a woman. So every time she get mad, she chunking stuff at you, and you just like, all right, man, chill out. All right, whatever. That's not healthy, and it doesn't matter if it's male or female. And if someone is talking to you and they're belittling you, that's abuse. If someone is somewhat controlling your thoughts and it's making you think nobody else don't want me, I'm less than, I'm not beautiful, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. If what they are doing to you is perpetuating that feeling, that is abuse. So we don't want to just think that it's somebody punching you, because yes, it is that, but there's other forms of abuse as well. Because if we only focus on the one, then we have people that are in abusive relationships, in abusive situations, and they'll think I'm not being abused because he's not hitting me. I'm not being abused. He's not pushing me down the stairs. I'm not being abused. He's not sexually attacking me. No, but you're being abused because this person belittles you every chance they get. You're being abused because they make you feel this big. You're being abused because they have got into your psyche and make you believe that you are nothing without them. That's abuse. That's abuse.
Yes,
And
it is.
we want to be careful, and we want to be mindful of all those things. And we don't want to allow, we want to have the tools and the knowledge. I say the word tools all the time because on the Marriage Coach podcast, we're always telling people that what we share, my husband and I have been married for 22 years. What we share are the tools that work for us. So we have this toolbox, and we have all these tools that we learn for resolving conflict, for working through finances, for working through when we don't agree. We have all these tools in the toolbox, and we know to go in and, okay, I need this one because we're not agreeing. I need this one because we need, the tools. So when you have these tools to recognize a healthy and an unhealthy relationship, then you can go to that toolbox and say, wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, this ain't healthy. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I need to pay attention to this. I need to be mindful of this. And sometimes you have to, if the person is of a sound mind and you can conversate with them, you have to sit down and talk to them. I feel this way when you do this and say that and do this and do that. And here's the thing, if it's a genuine mistake, then that person will hear that. If they are a predator, if they are a person that is violent and that's who they are, they're doing it for the purpose of, they know what they're doing, then they're going to be more defensive about it. Now, when you address the first time, they may be saying, that ain't what I meant. That's one thing. But if you go to address it and they get angry and riled up, they know what they're doing. And they intend to do that. And they're using it for that purpose. And then there's another flag. And then you got a decision to make. If you're not married to them, you got a decision to make. Because here's the thing that I tell anybody. I never advocate for somebody to just end your marriage off of something, because you have to work the situation. Find out, can the situation been worked out? Can we go to counseling? Can we get therapy? Can we go to a coach? Can we do something to make this better? Is this situation fixable? That's what we do in marriage. But if you dating somebody and it's all the way to the left, that's a wrap. That's in my mind. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Now you can if you feel like, okay, I think that this situation can be saved, you can decide as a dating couple, okay, let's try counseling. And if they're not willing, then it's a wrap. If they say, okay, maybe I do have some issues, because, and I have to be careful about that, because sometimes, some people are, like I said, if you were raised in that, you may think it's normal. Well, I don't want anybody to hear that and not want to help somebody that could be a good helpmate for them. But if they're not willing to get the help, this is how I describe it. If I have cancer, if I have any type of sickness, lupus, heart disease, whatever, I go to a doctor, right, that specializes in whatever I'm suffering from, right? And they're going to give me a treatment. They're going to look for a treatment. So if you're in a relationship that is unhealthy, it's just like a disease. Both parties in that relationship have to be willing to go and get treatment for that relationship to get better. If both parties are not willing to get treatment, that's when it's a wrap. Because you're not married, you haven't already made this vow and this commitment, you're dating, and that person doesn't want to try to be better, then that means the situation is going to worsen as it goes on.
Right.
That's a fact.
Right.
Because if I want to be better, then I'm going to get the help. You know, now I understand that somebody may say, my husband's a pastor. So someone might tell one of our family members, I don't want to go to your uncle or your cousin because that's too close. You see what I'm saying? That's not them refusing to get help. They don't want the family to be in their business. That's cool. But there's still other counselors out there. There's still other help. And if they're willing to get that help, y'all dating and it's a little bit, we don't have cancer, but we got a little growth that we need to address, then you willing to get the help. Let's find somebody to help us, anybody to help us. But if we got a little growth that needs some help, and I don't believe in that counseling and all that stuff, and we can work this out. Now we can't, because if we could, we wouldn't have the growth here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, because when you're talking, sometimes people can take things and run with it. So, oh, she just said it's a wrap. No, I want you to understand that if you're in a relationship that seemingly has anything on, because if your arm is hurting, you're not just going to go in the kitchen and cut it off. You're going to get it checked out. And you're going to be willing to do some work to it before you just get it cut out. So that's the same thing with a relationship. But when it's in a relationship, it's two different people. So both parties have to be willing to take the treatment in order for the relationship to get better. And if one party is unwilling, then it's a wrap.
Right. And there's so many people that and this is, I have seen a lot of this. People have been dating for so many years, but then when they actually go for marriage counseling, they don't get married.
Right.
Why? Because in marriage counseling, they pull out topics or pull out and discuss your childhood, your individuality, what's dysfunctional, everything. So it brings so much.
As relationships, yes.
Financial. Well, my daddy did it all this way, and so my mama did it this way, so you're going to do it this way. Well, no, because this is not mother and daddy's relationship. This is our relationship. You know, I don't believe in a budget, but I believe in a budget. You know, all kind of different things. So the marriage counseling or premarital counseling is very, very important. And it's not about somebody's getting into your business or trying to tell you what to do. It's more because a lot of times when you're dating, you're thinking about, oh, I love him. Oh, you know, his eyes are just so beautiful. Oh, and oh, she's so fine. And, you know, you're not really going into the of it. And then you may be dating for a year or two. You think, oh, I know a lot about that person. But guess what? Even when you're married, you're still learning a person.
You're still learning.
But then we were dating. This is how we live. Okay, so now that we married, now this. Well, we didn't do it this way, but if you was going to marriage counseling prior to marriage, premarital counseling, then this would have come up, because it would have come up in a conversation based on the topic, based on the exercise, you know, and it happens. And then when it happens, the reality really becomes visible through the exercises. And it's like, you know what? Well, maybe we're really not ready. Maybe we're not compatible. Maybe we need to really focus on this and strengthen this more. Because if you don't get it now, then it's going to continue to escalate. And the counseling is to make your relationship better, not to throw stones or say you're not going to get married or what have you. And then don't get mad at the pastor that may be counseling you, who you have asked to marry you, and he or she says, you know what, I don't want to be a part of the marriage for performing the ceremony. Don't get mad at them, because they want you to do what is right, but in their hearts they don't want to consent on something they know is not right. You want to be equally yoked, but you got to understand that you continue to learn each other as you continue to grow. And then I want to touch back on what you said about the verbal abuse. She also pointed out, it was last year before last, whenever, she pointed out that as parents, We can verbal abuse our children.
Yep.
We're so used in our culture, the African American culture. We're so used to saying, "Boy, get over there, girl, get over here, get your behind over here, sit down, shut up." That's verbal abuse.
Yes,
and when the lady said that to us, we was like, "What?
What?
No." But that's all we knew. That's how we grew up. Our parents did. Grandma said to us, "You better not slam that door," you know, or "Boy, I'm gonna hang you by your neck," you know, all kind of different things. But it's a way to say it.
Absolutely.
You know? So we turn around, and when we hollering and screaming, and we all, I can speak for myself, fall victim to that. You know, so when she said that, I was like, whew.
Yep. I remember.
Been verbal abuse, and if that's the case, so when you're raising your voice at your children, you're verbal abusing them. You're teaching them that it's okay to raise your voice, and then what happens is the more you keep raising your voice, they stop hearing you. Yeah, because it becomes the norm. So you have to stop that. So when you're raising your voice at your spouse, you need to think about it. Hold on, wait a minute. You need to walk away, and I'm gonna walk away, and then once you calm down, we can come back and we can talk about it. Because we don't think of it in our culture. We never thought about that being abuse because we've heard it so much. So when you're cursing at your kids, that is verbal abuse.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I mean, that's it. You can't make any good out of that. It's verbal abuse. But we have to condition our minds to realize it's another way to handle the situation. Yes. Verbiage can be better, because what are we doing? We are continuing a generational curses.
Exactly.
To break it.
Not breaking the cycle. Yeah, we're actually perpetuating the cycle.
Exactly. And then when they have children, they're saying the same thing because, you know, so we have to think about that. So this is really.
And what you just said made me think about this. That would be the mother whose son is abusive. And I'll just say mother and son because it could be a daughter, but the mother whose child is abusive. Say, my child didn't grow up in an abusive home, and they said if you grew up in abuse, yes, they did, because you were abusing them verbally. It's just that now it's done escalated for them, and it went from verbal to physical. But we teach them. If you think about this, children are sponges, right? They absorb everything that we do more than what we say, because we say the right stuff, but sometimes we do other stuff. So when you yelling, screaming, cussing at them and doing all that, you're teaching them that's if you're doing that, we're teaching them that that's what you're supposed to do, right? If I haul off and I say, okay, I'm gonna pop you to get you to do what I want you to do, right? Then in essence, you just taught a child that when you pop somebody, you hit somebody, you teaching them that they're going to do what you want them to do. Because you're hitting them to get you to do what you want them to do. And when she said that, I remember exactly what Dee is talking about. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Because, you know, we've done that when you're a little kid, just pop money and go do what I told you to do. Yeah. Because you think that's how we was raised. You think that's normal. But it's not, because now you've taught this kid that when you want somebody to do something and they don't do it, hit them. Exactly. And we don't think that it's that simple, but it really is. Because as they grow, if that's what you do, you continue to do the same thing. And then you spanking them anytime they don't do what you want them to do. Then and that's what it is in the back of your mind. So it's when somebody don't listen to me, if I get aggressive, then they'll listen. And that's what perpetuates things like that. Even though you could say, well, their daddy never hit them, their mama never hit them, but they didn't hit them like that to the severity that they're now doing it to someone else. But it started then to make them think that it was okay.
Right, and then it leads into emotional.
Yeah,
they become withdraw. I mean, so and this is something, again, we in our culture, we were not brought up when we hear domestic violence, it's just physical.
Yeah.
But over the time, when you really get to know what domestic violence is, it's not all just physical. It's emotional. It's verbal, you know. So, but we can go all day with this. But you know, one thing about it, we're just moving because this is what God has given us. He has shifted all this around for today. So, and I thank Him for that, because we are women. we are still trying to get it right, because we never gonna get it right. We just still pressing and trying. We're trying to get it right. We are working, we're using tools. We're trying to be better parents. We're trying to be better women or husbands. We're trying to be better leaders, better teachers. So we're gonna learn from it to strive, but you're never gonna be perfect. So when I say we're never gonna get it right, you're never gonna be perfect, because you're gonna always still have challenges, and you're gonna have to keep pushing through it. So that is what I mean when I say that we're not gonna always get it right. You're not gonna always be perfect, but you are willing to work through it and to make better changes.
Absolutely.
Because we're steady learning and we're steady growing. We're steady growing.
Amen.
So this was part 2. And we just thank you again. And once again, just be looking out for the resources. And as you can tell, this is a pre-recorded session, but we had to take some time to get this information out to you so we can bring it to you on this evening. Okay.
Yes.
So we thank you. We love you, and just reach out to us, and you can I'm gonna put all this information up so you can get our email addresses, contact, the marriage coach podcast, and the helpful resources that can help you and someone else that you may know. So have a wonderful night, and thank you again, ladies.
My pleasure.
Thank you.